This is Willow just checking on her brother. He's okay. He's okay. Good girl. You sit there. You're gonna sit there. Okay. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Last time you saw me, I was heavily pregnant and ready to pop a baby out, and we have done just that. You might be able to hear him in the back. He's literally just sleeping. But yeah, this is going to be my birth story. I'm going to start this video off by saying obviously everybody's birth story is different. Overall, I had a really positive experience. There was just some negative elements to it that I will obviously get into, but I will introduce you to him a bit later, hopefully when he's woken up. But yeah, on the 12th of February 2024, I gave birth to a baby boy. If you don't follow me on Instagram, we called him Jude Bobby Shackleton. He was born at 12:01 AM and he weighed, well, they told us he weighed 6'2" in the moment, so we told everybody 6'2", and he actually weighed 6'1". So he weighed 6 pounds 1 ounce. I'll start with his name and if there was any kind of like meaning behind his name. So Jude was the only boy's name we had the whole way through pregnancy. We really struggled with boys' names. Boys' names are so difficult. We just did not. Jude was the only name that we agreed on, and that wasn't because we disagreed on a lot of names. There was just maybe 4 names tops that we liked. I didn't love Jamie's name and Jamie didn't love the other 2 that I suggested, so it literally just was Jude. My mum's name is Judy, so there's that kind of little link there between Jude and Judy. But yeah, really, it was just the only name that we really liked. And then Bobby is after Jamie's dad, who was named Robert, and he was nicknamed Bob. So we kind of put a little modern spin on that and made it Jude Bobby. Bobby was actually a front runner for his first name, but I just couldn't get over him being nicknamed Bob. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I just didn't want to be one of those mums where it was inevitable he was going to be nicknamed Bob, and I didn't want to be like, his name's Bobby. It's like, don't name your child something that can be shortened. That's kind of the little backstory behind his name. And then I've got a few questions that I put on my Instagram weeks ago now that I will answer at the end, but I'll kind of do the birth story first and then I will answer a few questions at the end that I think a few people have. I also wrote some timings and stuff as things were happening, so if I'm looking at my phone it's because I'm just double checking dates and times of stuff of what happened. But okay, so the day I actually filmed the nursery tour was the day I had my 38-week midwife appointment, and I never made it to that appointment. So this was the 7th of February, basically later on in the afternoon. Did you just hear him fart? So yeah, 7th of February, I basically had quite a heavy bleed. This was probably just before 5 PM, and I rang up the MAC unit, so that stands for the Maternity Assessment Centre. That's what it's called at my hospital. And yeah, rang them up, let them know, and they was like, come in, we'll have a look, make sure everything's okay. So we headed in, they strapped me up to measure his heart rate and things like that. And then I had a doctor come in to check my bleeding, and they did like an internal scan and stuff. They then went away and we was left in this room for hours. Like, we had no idea what was going on. We was like, we kept saying to the midwife like, any idea when we can go home? And they was just like, yeah, just like hang in there, like the doctor will be back to see you soon. So the doctor come back, I think we got in there at about 7. The doctor come back in to see us maybe at like 12. Basically said, we're going to keep you in overnight, monitor your bleeding. If the bleeding stopped in the morning, we'll send you home. If it's not, we will opt to induce you. So that was kind of it. We got kept in overnight, woke up the next morning, and then a consultant come around to see me at about 9 AM, and she basically had a look and she was like, we're a bit worried that your placenta is coming away from your uterus, and while the baby is in a really good position and his heart rate was really, really strong, everything like that, like while he was perfect, we'd prefer to induce you to get him out. So we was like, fine, absolutely, if that's the safest thing to do, then that's what we're gonna do. I had the pessary put in at 12 o'clock on the 8th. I will insert the description of what a pessary is, but I was already 2 centimeters dilated anyway. But my cervix was still really long and thick, and long story short, the pessary basically goes up, and what it does is shortens the cervix and thins it. So yeah, everything's ready. Yeah, that went in at 12 o'clock, and that has to stay in for 24 hours. So I knew I was going to be in there for a little while, because obviously I had to be in there for 24 hours. And then the next steps was for them to break my waters and to get labour going. So yeah, that went in. That was all fine. For me, it wasn't painful at all. It's kind of like a small flat tampon. So yeah, it wasn't uncomfortable for me at all. The bleeding for me wore off about 24 hours after the bleeding started. So 24 hours passed. Obviously we was kept in hospital. Jamie was allowed to stay with me in hospital, so he stayed overnight. It's not nice for partners. I'm not gonna lie, they literally just have these uncomfortable chairs to sit in. Jamie did end up getting into bed with me and sleeping in the bed. I think they say that's not allowed, but midwives are coming in every like 3 hours through the night, and not one of them said anything to us. So I think they just think it's inevitable that the dad's gonna get into the bed if they're staying overnight for a better night's sleep, because there's no way you can sleep sat upright. So yeah, 24 hours passed. The pessary come out at 12 o'clock on the 9th of Feb. So at this point we was like, oh my God, like baby's gonna be here within the next kind of like 24 hours. Was we wrong? I had the pessary out. It had done what it needed to do. With the pessary, if it doesn't do what it needs to do the first time around, they'll put a second pessary in that again needs to be kept in for 24 hours. Luckily I didn't need that. I just had the one, and my cervix was where it needed to be. The midwife was like, right, we're ready to break your waters. She was like, but there is a wait-in list. We'll call it a list, it's not actually a list, but she was like, there is kind of like a wait-in list. So kind of looked at me and she was like, it could be a while. So we was kind of like, how long are we talking? And she was like, she didn't really want to say, she was just like, you could be waiting a while. And then basically, to put it short, I was just in hospital for 4 days. And I kind of say like list, it's more like a pool. The midwife kind of explained it to me as like a pool of women where you're obviously ready to be induced, but people that have naturally gone into labour, they will like go above you, obviously, because they're in like active labour. Then you've got people that have come into like the MAC unit that maybe they've got reduced movements and stuff. They're obviously more emergent than what I was. So it kind of is all just, it's kind of like you're just waiting for your turn where there's not somebody more emergent than you. So this was kind of like midday Friday, and Jamie was going to and from work. My mum was coming in to keep me company. Jamie's mum coming to keep me company. It was just kind of like doing whatever I could do to occupy myself. So then the Saturday rolled round. The whole Saturday day passed. And what was a bit like upsetting for me was I saw so many people on my ward come and go. Like I had been there since Wednesday evening, and I was just seeing people come and go where they'd kind of like been induced, got to the point that I was at, and then they was allowed to go home and basically like get a phone call to say when there was a room ready on the delivery suite, whereas I wasn't allowed to go home because I was high risk because I had the bleed, but obviously I wasn't high risk enough to like to be rushed into the delivery suite. And at this point, like, I wasn't in any pain. I was perfectly healthy. I was just sat in this curtained room. And the only thing that I would say, the negative of that, other than like being bored and not being allowed to go home, was I started to panic about giving birth. Obviously I was sat in a hospital bed and the only thing I was thinking about was giving birth. So I did begin to get like a little bit anxious about it. But other than that, all was fine. Like, I was doing fine up until Saturday night, where a midwife come in at about 10 o'clock and she was like, bear in mind these midwives had seen me. They kind of did have the same staff during the day and then during the evening. So this same midwife had seen me for like 3 nights now. She come in and she was like, you are next. She was like, you are the next room that comes available, is yours. She was like, try and get some sleep. It could be a couple of hours, but try and get some sleep. I'll come in and wake you when they're ready to take you round. So me and Jamie was like, fantastic. So I went to sleep, got woken up at 7, and she come in and she was like, I'm so sorry. She was like, there was just loads of emergencies that had come in to the MAC unit overnight. I'm not sure how long it's going to be now. And again, it's like no one's fault, but I think I had like the carrot dangled in front of me and I like was ready and I was like, I'm going to meet my baby. And then it was kind of just snatched out from under my nose. The word that I can use was like, I was just a bit deflated, and it was like a mind game, because like I'd sit there in this like closed curtained room. I'll insert any pictures and videos and stuff I have, but I was just in this curtained room for like 4 days, and like every like footsteps you'd hear, I'd be like, is that them coming to get me, to take me around to the delivery suite? And then it wouldn't be, and then you'd be like, oh. So yeah, I sent Jamie to work because I was like, it doesn't sound like it's gonna be anytime soon. Got my mum in, and yeah, I can just remember just feeling like, oh my god, this is never gonna happen. This really, really lovely midwife, she was finishing at like midday, and she was like, I'm back in tomorrow morning. She was like, if you've not gone round, I'm gonna personally carry you round there myself. A new midwife come round and she was like, I'm really not sure how long it's gonna be. It's not looking like anytime soon. Sorry guys, he woke up for his feed and now he's Sparko again. He's not slept all morning. And yeah, now he's dead to the world. So yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, first like senior midwife come round and she was like, I don't think it's gonna be anytime soon. And then there was like a junior student midwife that come round, and she was like, oh, I think there's a delivery suite midwife that is coming around to get you in a minute. I kind of said to mum like, oh yeah, I'll take that with a pinch of salt. I'm not gonna get my hopes up. And about 20 minutes later, this girl come round and she was like, hi, I'm ready to take you around to the delivery suite. And I was like, oh my god. Luckily, Jamie was literally 5 minutes away. He was coming straight from work to the hospital. I had no bags. Obviously, we went into hospital not thinking we were gonna stay in hospital and give birth. So we didn't go to hospital with any of our bags or anything like that. So yeah, Jamie brought all those up when he got there. And yeah, I'll insert the little video I have of the room that I was in. It was a really lovely room. Like, I know this sounds silly, but like the light was really nice. Like, it was quite a sunny day. It just felt really nice in there. They explained to me everything that was gonna happen. I ended up with 2 midwives. Both of them were so amazing. They are so clear with like explaining everything that's gonna happen. Like, they explain little things like they're obviously monitoring baby's heart rate, and every half an hour they will update you on how they feel the baby's heart rate is. So I can't remember the exact like words they use, but they'll basically either say like everything's fine, they are a bit suspicious, they're going to keep an eye on something, or they're not happy and there's a reason to get like a doctor or a second pair of eyes. And then I think it's every hour another midwife will come in and basically oversee the monitor and everything as like a fresh pair of eyes, just to make sure the midwife that's with you hasn't missed anything. So yeah, everything was done like so well. I felt so comfortable. So I was taken to the delivery suite at 1:45 and they broke my waters at 3 o'clock. That is the weirdest feeling. Like, it is literally like uncontrollably wetting yourself. And I knew that I had quite a lot of amniotic fluid from a growth scan I had the week prior. They said I had like a lot of water retention, a lot of amniotic fluid. So mine didn't just go once, it kind of like went once, and then every time I kind of like laughed or coughed or anything like that, more would come out. Don't know if that's TMI, but and then they have to get a doctor to basically sign off the drip, the hormone drip. So we had to wait for a doctor to come in. All in all, they started my hormone drip at 4:30. Basically, I went into that delivery suite. As soon as you get onto the delivery suite, you can get the epidural. So if you've seen my previous vlog, I say I want the epidural and I don't want the forceps, and that's kind of like my birth plan. So I went into the delivery suite like, give me the epidural. The midwife said to me, she was like, listen, the hardest part of this is getting to 4 centimeters. She was like, you're already 2. If you can get to 4 centimeters without the epidural, this whole process is going to be a lot quicker, because the epidural could slow things down. So I was like, fine, I can do that, no problem. So the hormone drip started. They only check how far dilated you are every 4 hours in case of like risk of infection. Obviously keep putting their hand up to check, it can cause infection. So they only check every 4 hours. So she was like, we'll recheck at 8:30 to see if you're 4 centimeters. If you are, we can get the epidural done. That was fine with me. So the first 3 hours of that 4 hours, so from like 4:30 till 7:30, I was fine. Like, the pain was not bad. I was laughing and joking with Mum and Jamie, like having the time of my life. I was like, right, this is a breeze. And yeah, the pain really wasn't bad. It was kind of, a lot of people say it's like period pains, but I just felt it a lot in my back and like my bum, and there was like a lot of pressure. But yeah, the pain in the first 3 hours, fine. Going into that 4th hour, so like 7:30, I was like, right, okay, this is kicking in now. So I had the gas and air. In my opinion, the gas and air did nothing. I didn't feel any pain relief. I think it makes you concentrate on your breathing, and I just think it makes you think about something else, basically. So yeah, for that hour I had the gas and air. It got to 8:30 and I was like, we need to request this epidural. Even if I'm not 4 centimeters, this pain is getting bad now. So yeah, they checked me and I was just over 4 centimeters dilated. So I was like, great, get me that epidural. So they requested the epidural. By the time the anaesthetist had got out of theatre, because obviously a lot of the time they're in theatre with people having C-sections and stuff, and there was also a midwife changeover, so they change over at between 8 and 8:30. Yeah, I had a midwife changeover. With everything happening like that, by the time the anaesthetist got in, it was about 9:30. They put the epidural in, everything like that, everything was fine. But that hour between checking how dilated I was at 8:30 and getting the epidural put in at 9:30, the pain ramped up 100 notches. Like, it had suddenly come out of nowhere. Like, again, that kind of 8:30 mark, it was painful, but it was manageable. I was in pain, really. Looking back, I'm like, I actually don't think it was that bad, but like, it was an instant, like, yeah, I was in like a lot of pain. I had Jamie in some weird positions. Like, I had him in literally like a headlock, like his body over my shoulder in like a headlock. So yeah, anyway, epidural went in at 9:30 and the midwife said to me, give it half an hour to kick in. So at this point I was in the thick of it and I was like, oh my god, this is painful. Basically got to 10 o'clock and I was still in, I could still feel everything. And on the monitor that the midwife can see, she can see my contractions, so she can see how strong they are. Because I was high risk because of the bleed, I had to have the straps on me at all times, monitoring his heart rate and my contractions. So on the monitor, she can see my contractions at all times. So she could see exactly where I was feeling pain, and she kind of said, you shouldn't be feeling the pain that you're in. So she called the anaesthetist back round. They basically prod you with a needle to check where you have feeling. Essentially, you're not really supposed to feel your feet, your legs, anywhere kind of boobs, waist down. I could feel all of the pinpricks apart from up here on this side. This side I could feel everything. This side I could feel everything apart from kind of in my rib area. And then at this point, I don't know how often it is, every few hours they have kind of, I think they called it a walk around, which is basically where all of the doctors, the head midwife, like the lead midwife on the delivery suite, there's about 7 people, come in and they get a lowdown of what's happening from the midwife in the room. I think it's so that if you are rushed into kind of theatre for an emergency, they're aware of what's going on. But at this point, when the anaesthetist was checking me, they had this walk around. They were just about to kind of up my dose or move it around, I'm not sure. And the lead midwife said, recheck how dilated she is. She might be ready to push. So everybody left apart from that lead midwife who stuck around. My midwife checked me. She was like, Molly, you're 8.5 centimetres. If you can get through this, your baby's gonna be here very soon. So I was like, okay. She was like, you felt the max amount of pain, like it's not gonna get any more painful for you. Like what you're feeling now is as painful as it's gonna get. And then I basically started pushing at 11 o'clock. Honestly, I would actually say the pushing was one of the hardest parts for me. I can't hold my breath, right? I've never been good at holding my breath. When you push, they literally want you, like the midwife was like, right, I had my legs like held up. Again, epidural didn't work. So like I could move my legs, I could feel my legs, move them myself. She was like, right, hold your legs up and push. But she was like, chin to chest and hold your breath and push. So I was like chin to chest, holding my breath, push for what felt like forever. But then I was like, I need to breathe. So I'd be like, and like go into pushing again. And she was like, no. She was like, you need to hold your breath for longer, push. And I was like, I'm gonna pass out. I just found that really difficult. If you can hold your breath, you'll be fine. But like, I can just remember these people saying to me like, hold your breath for longer. And I was like, I can't hold my breath any longer. I'm gonna die, like I'm gonna pass out. I pushed for, I think about half an hour, 45 minutes. And basically where she said my hips were quite like thin, I guess, she said, I can see your baby's head, but he's struggling to get over, I think, the base of my spine. And basically, when you have a contraction, the heart rate of your baby naturally dips because obviously it's tightening, so it's, I believe, cutting off the oxygen. So the baby's heart rate will naturally dip, but they bring their heart rate back up quite quickly. In the end, after like 45 minutes of pushing, Jude's heart rate was dipping and then it wasn't bringing itself back up quick enough for the next contraction. So it was just like, by the time it was just bringing itself back up, and I had another contraction and it would dip again. So she was like, I'm getting quite worried about him, like he's getting tired. I was getting tired. Where they say you have this rush of adrenaline to get the baby out, I had the opposite. I was like having a contraction and pushing and then quite literally falling asleep. I don't know if it was passing out or falling asleep, but I can remember like just, yeah, feeling like I was falling asleep. And I'm pretty sure I overheard my mum at one point being like, she's falling asleep. So yeah, I was getting tired, he was tired. She said to me, I'm gonna get a doctor in just to monitor you. So a doctor come in, had a look at the monitor and everything, and she was like, Molly, we need to use forceps to get him out, and give you an episiotomy. I didn't know what an episiotomy was, but I knew what forceps were. Again, if you'd seen my previous vlog, my only one thing that I didn't want was forceps. And I can remember looking at Jamie and like getting a bit like teary. And I said to my mum and Jamie going into like giving birth, and I was like, if they say forceps, tell them I don't want it. I can remember the doctor saw me kind of welling up, and she was like, we would not do this if it wasn't safe. We do it every day. Like, you have nothing to worry about. 90% of me was like, I really don't want this. 10% of me was like, they are gonna help you get this baby out. Like, you are gonna meet your baby soon. They're helping you. Just go with it. I can remember just looking at Jamie a bit like tearful, and him looking at me being like, it's gonna be fine. Like, you are gonna be fine. He is gonna be fine. Then I think I was just like, what's an episiotomy? And they was like, we're basically gonna cut you. They cut me both sides in 2 places. He was basically pulled out 12:01, and obviously the adrenaline and stuff of him being like put on my chest and meeting him and everything like that, they were stitching me up at the same time. I can remember the stitches being uncomfortable. I don't remember it hurting. I remember it kind of like, if you've ever had a tooth like pulled out, you know, where you can't feel the pain but you can feel it like tugging and stuff like that. Like, that's how it felt for me. He was born at 12:01. Then they kind of give you a couple of hours to like enjoy him. My midwife Ellie, she brought round tea and toast, was with us to put his first nappy on, get him dressed. She put him on my boob, everything like that. Like, she was amazing. About 3:30, we got wheeled down to the postnatal ward. He's waking up. Let me get him. Oh, we're straight back to sleep. Oh, are we? Also, if you've watched my packing my maternity bag, and I say, me and Jamie are thinking of not using dummies. Yeah. It lasted all of 2 days. The dummy saves lives. We loved the dummy. All parties involved loved the dummy. Yeah, we went down to the postnatal ward. In the morning, they come round, they do a full check over of baby. They do a full check over of me because I had the epidural. Like, there was a few extra checks that I needed. We got discharged at about 2 o'clock. Went home and thought that that was it. Long story short, day by day, I was feeling more pain than less pain in the downstairs region. The day after, I thought, oh, it's because all the drugs and stuff that they'd given me were wearing off, so I thought that was normal. We got home on the Monday. Basically by the Friday, I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit down, I was just in so much pain. And I basically said to my mum was staying with us, and I basically said to my mum, can you look at the stitches just to make sure that everything's okay? She looked, and the horror on her face, she was like, all of the stitches have ruptured. They'd basically all come apart. So I was like, fantastic, great. So I rung the MAC unit, and they was like, yep, come in, we'll have a look. I didn't cry giving birth. Like, the pain of giving birth didn't make me cry. The pain of the episiotomy stitches, I was screaming. I can't even describe the pain. I got into the car screaming in pain. My mum, my dad, Jamie, they was all like, I've never seen you that, like, even cry that much. Yeah, I can't even tell you. I went to the hospital, and basically they was like, we're not going to re-stitch you because in case you've got an infection, we'll be closing the infection in. TMI, but when they done the episiotomy for me, they cut through muscle and the skin. The muscle stitches were still intact, but the like top layer of skin wasn't. So there was basically like, it will heal inside out, essentially. Okay, I'm desperate to finish this bloody video, and we're losing the light, so I'm gonna try and wrap this up as quick as possible because I feel like I've been rambling forever. Yeah, where did I get up to? They wouldn't stitch me back up. They sent me home with antibiotics, just in case there was an infection, and basically was like, it will heal on its own, it's just gonna be quite painful. So that was all fine. A week passed. I took the week of antibiotics, and literally to the day of finishing the antibiotics, just come over with, like, I was uncontrollably like shivering. I felt dizzy, I felt sick. It was just really horrible. I went to bed, and then I had the health visitor come in the next morning. Jamie went off to work. I had, and yeah, this health visitor come at 10 o'clock. She, bless her, she sat down and she was like, you look like you're doing really well. I couldn't have looked worse, to be honest. I was sat in front of her like uncontrolled, like shivering, like teeth chattering, shivering. I felt like I was gonna pass out. Luckily Jude was asleep because I had him in the Moses basket downstairs. I was like, I can't even stand to hold him, like I feel like I'm gonna pass out. He was talking to me and I was like, you know when someone's talking to you, and I couldn't register anything she was saying. I don't know what she was saying to me. And about 10 minutes in, I was like, I'm so sorry, I really need, I'm gonna be sick. I come back in and she was like, I'm really worried about you, I'm gonna rush you to the doctors. So I rang Jamie's mum and I was like, you need to get here ASAP, like I'm really not well. Luckily my uncle and my nan and granddad were up visiting, so they were in Leeds city centre. I rang my nan and I was like, you need to get here. And yeah, basically rallied the troops. Louise, Jamie's mum, took me to the doctors. My nan and granddad and uncle watched Jude. Went to the doctors. She had a look at me and she was like, I'm gonna rush you to, you need to rush to A&E. You have an infection like spreading through your body basically. This is really quite serious. You need to go to A&E. So we went there. They sat in a room in A&E for a few hours before they then took me to the MAC unit again. They basically took my bloods, everything like that, took some swabs, and this poor midwife, she come in and she was like, I can't even remember, it was such a blur because I was so unwell, like I was away with the fairies, to be honest, but I can't even remember the number that she said, but she was like, your infection levels are sky high, like we need to admit you and put you on a drip. I burst into tears and I was like, please send me home. Please just give me some oral antibiotics. I'll come back tomorrow if I don't feel right. Please let me go home. The midwife was like, let me go and get the consultant. So she went, the consultant come in and she was like, I'm really sorry, like you need to stay in. And I cried and I was like, please let me go home. I think because I'd spent so many nights in the week before, and they said they were gonna put me on the postnatal ward, which is obviously like where everyone's just had their baby, so it's just screaming kids, so it's just screaming babies. I was just like, I don't think I have that in me. And the consultant was like, I'll go and speak to the doctor. Then the doctor come in and he was like, let's just get this straight, you're not going home. And I was like, okay. So anyway, yeah, they put me on a drip. I was on a drip in hospital for 3 days. All I will say is someone was looking down on me, because when we got to the postnatal ward, they put us in a room, like with just us, like a private room. I think because when you're on the postnatal ward, you're really not there that long. Like we obviously got there in the middle of the night and we'd left 12 hours later. So I think they kind of looked at me and was like, she's going to be in here a couple of days, we'll give her a private room. I had an infection that was running through my body. We're not sure what it was. We think I maybe could have caught an infection during my actual labour, because my episiotomy, they took swabs of that when I first went in the first time and then the second time, and both times there was no infection. Yeah, we think it could have been actually from the labour itself. That pretty much is my birth story. Honestly, I've said this to everyone, I would give birth, I would go through labour 10 times over in comparison to the aftermath of like recovery. I feel like a lot of the time, you know, like the recovery of a C-section and stuff like that, it's taken me a month. I'm now a month, like he was a month yesterday, and I'm only just like okay. I was just so naive. I thought like you gave birth, and if you didn't have a C-section, you just had a vaginal birth, even if you had like stitches and stuff, give it a day and you were like back in business. But no, yeah, that was not the case for me. So yeah, overall I'd say my actual like birth and labour, like, don't get me wrong, it hurts, and I'm pretty sure I can say I'd done it with like little pain relief, but I thought it was going to be worse. So if that gives anybody any hope out there that's giving birth, like, I really thought it was going to be worse than it was. I was lucky. I had I think a really quick labour for a first baby. Like 7 hours I think is pretty quick. And yeah, so a couple of questions that I got like asked on the Q&A was, am I breastfeeding? So yes, I'm breastfeeding. Because of the episiotomy, I couldn't sit flat like this. I had to be on my sides. I couldn't get Jude in a position, like a comfortable position for either of us really. He latched really well, but it was just really uncomfortable. I couldn't sit in it for a long time, so I'm exclusively pumping. I lost a lot of milk from one boob when I was in hospital, I think from the stress of being in hospital, and when you're ill, I think your milk like naturally reduces. So I'm still working on getting that back up. It's been 2 weeks now, and it's just slowly building back up. A couple of the other questions was, what caused the rupture? The doctor said that it's really common because naturally you're really swollen, obviously down there. So no matter how like tight they stitch you up, when you de-swell and everything, it becomes a lot looser, and it's apparently quite common for the stitches to come loose. So that's what they think the reason for the rupture was. How early was he? So he was 2 weeks early. How has Willow been with him? Willow has been a dream. Like, we couldn't wish for Willow to have been any better. At first, when we first brought him home, she was really like, I think a bit overwhelmed. If you had him and you were standing up, she'd be like jumping up at you. Like, she was just so like intrigued by him. I was literally like sat next to him at all times. But after 24 hours and she realised like he wasn't going anywhere, she has just been a dream. She is just like his little protector. Like, she's so protective of him. If anybody knows, like if anybody knows holding him, she'll like go and she like sniffs them and then sits there like literally just watching them. She'll be like playing and then she'll quickly like run back to him, check he's okay, and then run off. She doesn't get in his face. She has been a dream. Like, we couldn't wish for better. And when we're both home, one of us is cuddling Wills and the other one is cuddling Jude, and yeah, she's absolutely fine. She's doing so well. Another question is around Jamie's work and how much time he gets off and stuff, and he basically gets no time off. So he was back to work the day after Jude was born. I'd say the toughest part is away games. So for those of you that don't know, Jamie plays football, and for any away games, they basically travel the night before or the day before. They're away the day before and the day of the game, and that's just how it is. So yeah, I think like he was born on the Monday, and come the Friday morning, Jamie was away and didn't get back until late the Saturday night, and was at work every day in between that. So I'd say that's one of the most difficult things, or was one of the most difficult things. We're in like a routine now, and naturally Jamie as the father would have gone back to work by now anyway, but for that first like couple of weeks where you just want to be together like as a little family, and Jamie had to leave, I think obviously it's sad for me, but I think probably it's a bit more upsetting for him because he doesn't want to leave his like newborn baby. So yeah, that's tough, but we knew that going into it, like we was always prepared for that to happen, kind of thing. Yeah, that's kind of the answer to that one. Another one is how he's sleeping. I don't want to say this out loud because I feel like I'm gonna jinx it, but he is sleeping so well. We've basically got him into a really good routine where he feeds every 4 hours. Obviously with exclusively pumping and feeding him through a bottle, we can see exactly how much he's getting. So he's taking between 120 and 130 ml per feed, and he's literally dead on every 4 hours. So it's 7, 11, 3, 7, 11, 3, so like morning and night. And yeah, that's pretty much, we try and keep him awake after the 7 o'clock feed and keep him awake to the 11 o'clock feed at night. And then he goes down for about 11:30, sleeps through to between 3 and 4, and then we feed him again then, and he sleeps through till about 7. So touch wood, it stays that way. Honestly, every night I go to sleep thinking, that's it, like it's all gonna go to shit now. But so far he's just been dreamy. Like I say, I'm sure it's probably gonna change and I'm gonna eat my words, but so far so good. Like he is sleeping well. So yeah, that's our kind of feeding and sleeping routine at the minute. And that's not even us like forcing it on him, that's like him literally, he will wake up at 7 and want to be fed. So yeah, that is that. But yeah, that is kind of everything. I'm gonna wrap it up here because the battery's flashing at me again. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've got any other questions, then let me know. I've got a couple of like vlogs coming up now of just life with us. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we've got a new member of the team. But yeah, thank you for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.